EZA on bank stress tests. Vertical line federal regulators found that banks, 4 years after the financial crisis, are better prepared to weather future financial shocks, according to the results of the so-called stress tests that the Federal Reserve released on Thursday. But the big question raised by some analysts was whether the Federal was too lenient in the tests, which now pave the way for the healthiest institutions to return money to shareholders. DealBook's Peter Eves and Ben Protess write. The tests, some argue, underestimate potential losses and what might happen if major financial firms collapsed. The stress tests were just not very stressful, said Rebel A. Cole, a professor of finance at DePaul University. Still, the stress tests are a tool to gauge the resiliency of the financial sector, the Federal Reserve Governor, Daniel K. Torello, said in a statement. Some of the successes were a bit unexpected. Just a year after poor performance in the tests thwarted its plans, Citigroup did better than its rivals this year. And the bank didn't wait long to celebrate, announcing that it hoped to carry out $1 billion in stock buybacks through the first quarter of 2014. Other banks, like Ally Financial, didn't do as well. Morgan Stanley and JP Morgan Chase had some of the lowest capital results among the Wall Street firms. It turned out that Goldman Sachs would take $25 billion in trading losses under the test. In another sign of friction, the banks had to run the same test as the Federal, and in some cases produced rosier results, Mr. Eves and Mr. Protess write. Wells Fargo reported a projected 9.2% Tier 1 common ratio, the primary measure of financial strength tracked by regulators, by the end of 2014. That was far higher than the 7% calculated by the Federal. Icahn's challenge to Dell deal. Vertical line Dell's directors face an increasing challenge as they prepare to defend a proposed buyout of the computer maker. DealBook's Michael J. De La Merced writes. Carl C. Icahn, recently joining the fray, is pushing for a special dividend for investors of $9 a share, echoing similar plans by Southeastern Asset Management, another investor opposed to the current deal. Directors can begin pushing back on March 22, the end of the period when bankers for a special committee of Dell's board were meant to seek alternatives to the going private plan by Michael S. Dell, the founder, and the private equity firm Silver Lake. If Dell rejects Mr. Icahn's plan, the billionaire said he would legally challenge the company's board, including nominating his own group of directors. We anticipate years of litigation will follow challenging the transaction and the actions of those directors that participated in it, Mr. Icahn wrote in a letter sent to the special committee. He is demanding that Dell borrow $8.25 billion to help finance the proposed dividend. We see no reason that the future value of Dell should not accrue to all the existing Dell shareholders, not just Michael Dell, he said in the letter. But Mr. Icahn's pronouncements may amount to a game of chicken, Stephen M. Davidoff writes in the Deal Professor column. In the end, Mr. Icahn probably does not want to run the company, and Mr. Dell does not want that either. Ultimately, Mr. Icahn, with his announcement, is just pressuring the board to sweeten the deal for shareholders. This is all about bobbing and weaving, and that is what Mr. Icahn is doing with his proposals. Pandora chief to step down. Vertical line Joseph J. Kennedy, who has been the chief executive of Pandora Media since 2004, said on Thursday that he would be leaving the internet radio company. The announcement came as Pandora reported growth and better than expected earnings, Ben Cicerio reports in the Media Decoder blog. Mr. Kennedy informed the board of his decision on Tuesday and, in the earnings call on Thursday, gave no reason other than hinting at the toll of running the company for nearly a decade. He plans to remain in place until a successor is found. As I approach the start of my 10th year, Mr. Kennedy said, my head is telling me it's time to get to a recharging station sooner rather than later. Mr. Kennedy's tenure illustrates how much Pandora, and streaming music in general, has changed, Mr. Cicerio writes. Pandora dominates the internet radio market, and has begun to challenge terrestrial radio stations for advertising. But its financial results, released after the close of trading on Thursday, show the challenges the company faces. On the agenda, vertical line the South by Southwest Festival, where in years past new technology products have been introduced, gets going in Austin. The unemployment report for February is out at 8:30 a.m. January hat CU's, Goldman Sachs' chief economist, is on CNBC at 10:30 a.m. White Collar Defense Bar goes to Vegas. Vertical Line. This week more than 1,200 lawyers from across the country convened at the Cosmopolitan Hotel in Las Vegas for the American Bar Association's 3-day White Collar Crime National Institute Deal Books. Peter Lackman writes. Numerous federal prosecutors and securities regulators attended this year's event, including Robert S. Hussein, the outgoing Director of Enforcement at the Securities and Exchange Commission, who spoke at a session on insider trading. While the lawyers were ostensibly there to attend panels and discussion groups on hot topics in white-collar litigation, the event is largely a schmooze fest. Over the last 20 years, there has been an explosion in white-collar criminal defense work at the country's largest law firms. Representing businessmen and political officials in hot water was once considered déclassé, but today every large corporate law firm has a substantial practice focused on the lucrative work.